Hello, and welcome to another edition of Comics and Pop. We have a very special episode this week, I guess, and we're going to be discussing all things Loki. Loki is now 2 episodes old, and according to the numbers I read, I think it's Disney Plus's biggest so far as their ratings. I guess each one's going a little bit more than the last one. So, hello, Troy and Carlos. What do you guys think so far?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? It makes sense that it's, as more and more stuff that comes out, it's gonna keep beating, I guess, the records of most watched, because people are, getting turned on to the Marvel universe and how good everything is being done. As far as Loki so far, I've enjoyed it. I like the fact that, there's an episode coming out every week, so you have like a little bit of a cliffhanger right at the end of each episode, which is always awesome.
Some good cliffhanger so far, I'll say that.
Yeah, it's a really good cliffhanger so far. Episode 1 I thought was really good. Episode 2 was excellent as well. I guess we're going to break them down by episode. Episode 1, I guess we got introduced to the whole, the time variance society, whatever, I guess, and basically, their job is to they're time cops to make sure that, the Marvel timeline, the timeline, but we call it the Marvel timeline, is maintained, and, there aren't any people, trying to interfere or, I guess, jump time, which is kind of like, there's going to be a lot of plot holes, I guess, that we'll have to figure out, because there's been a lot of that happening in the Marvel universe as far as people jumping time. So I guess, Loki kind of got arrested because of he broke the timeline when he took the Tesseract in the Avengers movie, and he I guess he did a faux pas by breaking the timeline. This is where the whole show comes in. It's interesting so far, man. I mean, everything that they've done so far is interesting. I guess I'll talk a little bit more about it. I guess we'll start going into details. But what about you, Troy? What did you think?
I think it's good. I have to agree. They're building momentum. With WandaVision, I was a little skeptical, but WandaVision came out and it was pretty good. And then the Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out and it was even better. And they dropped a lot of names in there for potential people and everything. And I thought, man, this is pretty good. They're using this to segue into some bigger stuff, because you got a whole universe. And then with Loki, they're doing even more stuff. I think Loki is good, real good. As a matter of fact, they're going to use that to introduce Kang, and Kang is a future Richards. So with him, they're kind of saying, yeah, well, Reed Richards has to exist, because later down in his lineage, Kang exists, and there's a lot of things that they're bouncing off of and bouncing into, with the whole multiverse and everything, because some aspects of the multiverse are in different time periods. So I'm thinking there's got to be some type of changes in the time stream in order for those other universes to live. So right. I'm curious, I don't know how spoilery we're going to be.
We can be spoiled. Everyone who's going to watch it's already seen it.
Yeah, that's true. With what happens in part 2, I'm like, okay, well, that's how they're going to introduce all these different variants of time, because they do it. I'm still thinking that the girl Ravonna, the boss, I think she's one of the big bads, because she's hooked up with Kang, and Kang is the time bad guy. And I'm pretty sure he married her, but she's his wife or girlfriend or whatever. And she's in the show, and she's not really giving him a lot of grief, but she's kind of giving Owen Wilson's Morbius character a little grief. I don't know why you're doing that. Why are you wasting your time on him? Yada, yada, yada. And then he noticed that there are things in her office, that she has on her shelf that he personally didn't acquire. And he's like, I thought I was your best guy. And she's like, no, there's another one. And I'm like, ooh, who's the other guy? So, they're segueing into.
Right. That was what also what made me wonder too. Who they keep referring to this other guy, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be someone. So, but have you guys read that Kang is in there? I mean, have you read that? Because I keep reading that, like, I'm wondering about Kang too, and I will keep wondering if this can be like a Mephisto thing, like in WandaVision, that we're all waiting for Mephisto to show up, and that he never shows up. So, I mean, this is natural for us to think Kang with this type of storyline, with the time travel and all that stuff. But Marvel is going to pull the rug out from under us again. I keep wondering.
I think so, because they're supposed to do 3 seasons of Loki. So I think.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, they're going to do 3 of them. So I'm thinking they're going to use maybe they're going to use this one to introduce Kang, and then maybe they'll use another season to introduce another big character, and then the third one will introduce him. I think they're going to use him to introduce the audience, the layman, to some of the Marvel universe. I think, I don't work there, but if I were to take a guess, that's where I put my money.
So one of the things that Marvel always opens up like a can of worms as far as like so many ways that they can take this is obviously, I mean, we're assuming that people who are watching this saw both episodes. At the end of episode 2, we are introduced to Lady Loki, right?
Maybe.
Maybe, right? But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I mean, she had the horns. Right. I mean, Lady Loki, basically in the comic books, what they did is they had like a Ragnarok a few years back in the Thor storyline, and then at the end of Ragnarok, they needed, I guess, some of those Asgardians that survived. They needed bodies, I guess, hosts, and Loki took over the body that was supposed to be for Lady Sif, and that's how you got Lady Loki. That's how Lady Loki was introduced into the comics. Now, Lady Loki in the comics is big because they did a storyline which was called the Illuminati, and which is, it's nothing for us to talk about today because it's too much. But from that, the Illuminati had a like kind of like a dark version of it, which it was a storyline called Dark Reign, and you had like kind of like the dark version of the Avengers that were led by Osborn. And Lady Loki had a big part in that, and that crew was Osborn. It was the Submariner. It was Doctor Doom. So we're talking Fantastic Four. We're talking what's the name? Emma Frost was part of it. So we're talking X-Men, mutants. So they're pretty much, with introducing Lady Loki, having ties to that, you're pretty much opening up the whole Marvel universe, right? There's so many things that they can do by introducing Lady Loki into this, and right, a lot of people could be like, maybe it's not Lady Loki, right? Maybe it's, who knows what it could be.
I've been reading a lot the Enchantress.
Right, but Lady Loki in the comics becomes the Enchantress. Mm-hmm. There's not Lady Loki. There's that it ties into the Young Avengers, and the Young Avengers. There's an Enchantress on there, so there's so many storylines that are intertwined that they can go with, and they're always going to use like that. Marvel's always going to use a little bit of creative licensing and kind of combine things like they always do. So who knows what they'll do? But I was honestly, when I saw when he pulled it down and it was a female Loki, I was shocked. I was like, that was the last thing I was.
I thought at the end of the first episode when we saw the figure in the shroud, I thought it was a female. Then I really thought it was a female. So I was wondering that I thought it looked like it was going to be a female version of Loki, but it looks, everyone's saying Lady Loki, but then I was also reading that this is the type of thing that Marvel's going to do. They're going to again make you think one thing, and then it just it's really the Enchantress later on. So I don't know which way they're going to go with that now.
Right.
I looked at IMDb. They have not put her character name in there. Because exactly. When I was looking at it earlier, I was like, well, wait, I'm not 100% sure that's Loki. So I looked it up, and they didn't have it. And I'm like, wait, she's the only one that they're not naming? They're thinking they're doing something wacky.
They're waiting for
Something's
the
going to happen. Yeah.
I'll just touch briefly though. One of the things that I do like, I mean, I love the first couple of series. You know, we mentioned WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier. I think one of the things that this has different for it that going is Tom Hiddleston is fantastic. I think if there's ever anyone that's just perfectly cast, and Marvel does a great job of casting, period, but he is fantastic in this. I mean, he's very funny. This series has a much different tone than the others do, right off the bat, because of him. And I was also wondering about how Owen Wilson was going to be. They are just great together. It's really like, you know, a buddy cop type of thing, you know, where they're the interplay, they're joking around with each other, and them, like, you know, kind of not liking each other, but then still kind of respecting each other a little bit. So I think that has a lot going for it too. And I think, you know, the Mobius character, I'm waiting to see where they're going to go with that as well.
I totally agree with you as far as the casting. There was something online that I saw that was funny. I don't know if I sent it to you guys or not, but they had a picture of the lady who's in charge of casting for Marvel, and she's like the real MVP of the Marvel universe. Yeah. You know, like, you know, the casting for, like, you know, I mean, for Thor, Loki, you know, Iron Man, Captain America, it's been so perfect. I mean, you can't really think. I mean, it's hard to think of other people to play these characters. Mm-hmm. You know, like sometimes you'll hear, you know, oh, they had this person in mind and this person in mind. No, this is the person that should be, you know, like Loki's probably, you know, the guy the Hiddleston as Loki's perfect, fantastic. Yep. So I definitely agree with you on there. Now, as far as going back to episode one of the things that going back to casting, I guess, you know, there was an Easter egg that everyone is talking about, which was there was like a quick 1 second thing when you see Loki standing and like one of the officers from the time variance, whatever, they're walking somebody in, and it looks like it's Peggy Carter.
Right. Yeah, you said that, right?
Did you guys see that? Yeah. So they slow that down, and I've read a lot about that. So a lot of people are saying, you know, that you know, that maybe she could have been arrested for breaking the timeline. Maybe she figured out a way to find out time travel, maybe to try to, you know, to be younger, to be able to be with Captain America. Right. You know, at the same time, if you think about it, when Captain America went back into time at the end of Avengers.
Yeah.
What movie? What's the name of that movie? Yeah, exactly. At the end of Avengers, if you think about it, he kind of broke the laws because he stayed back there and changed the timeline, changed the outcome, right? But at the end of Avengers, when you see when he's talking to the Falcon, and, you know, he sees that he has a ring, and he says, "Hey, you want to talk about that?" He's like, "Nah." He never mentions Peggy, so we don't know if it was Peggy that he married or not.
We're assuming that.
Right. We're assuming, right? He could have married somebody else, you know, and Peggy could have been arrested and, you know, gotten in trouble for breaking the time variance. But at the same time, all of the Avengers should have been arrested for breaking the time variance. That's exactly what they did. They went back in time to change the outcome of what Thanos did, you know? So it's like, there's a lot of, you know, if you're like a true Marvel geek, like we are, you know, we look at these things and we're like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense, you know? So it's well,
that's one of the things that they kept writing, that they say that the plot holes that, you know, Loki going through time is breaking it, but the Avengers going through time, no, that's okay. You know, that's supposed to happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
When I saw that on Endgame, I'm at the movies, I'm watching Endgame, and I've got a bunch of scenarios bouncing around in my head of what I'm trying to remember, what I think should happen, what would maybe be a good idea. And all of this stuff is bouncing around in my head. And I'm like an 11-year-old kid again. And I'm watching the show and I'm yelling and screaming at the show and everything. And when they went back in time, immediately, I was like, well, won't Kang notice that? Because Kang is like, what has he got, like a 3,000-year block of time that he just controls. Right. So I'm thinking, if I were an emperor and I had, 3,000 miles of whatever, and I was able to control the land because I was the only one that had explosives or, whatever. And then somebody tells me, hey, there's somebody else that's got explosives. I'd be very interested in that. So I'm thinking Kang is like, I've got all of this space and time that I control. And then somebody says, "Hey, boss, somebody else controls time too." He'd be like, "Whoa, wait, what?" And he would be interested. So as soon as I saw them go through time, I'm like, I think that might have been a bad idea. They don't know about Kang, but I think they're going to meet him. I was thinking that immediately, right at that time, and here it comes.
So I just want to get this straight. You are pushing this. You're all in on this Kang thing. I just want to get this straight.
You know what? I don't know if he's going to be in this show, but I am all over Kang. They tried to trick me again with that little kid eating a kablooey, eating a kablooey ice cream. And they're like, who gave it to you? And he points at the devil. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to Mephisto me again.
I'm not going down the Mephisto road again.
Mephisto road has been traveled.
It's going to be Mephisto. Just because I'm thinking it's not going to be, he's going to show up, woo. And I'll be like,
we'll get the Mephisto when they do a what if episode. So
yeah.
Right, exactly. It'll be a quick cartoon episode, like a little side, just to mess everybody up.
Now, he should show up in Doctor Strange, really. Yeah, he should be there.
Right.
And, they mentioned Nightmare, because when Loki was like, I'm going to burn this place to the ground, and Morbius was like, well, I'll show you where my desk is. You can start there. You know what? He says, this place is a nightmare. He says, oh, well, we've got a place like that, and I'll show you there, and I'll help you burn that down. And I was like, did he just mention Nightmare? I was like, what's going on? Someone's fulfilling all of my Marvel fantasies. So I'm like, wait a minute. So maybe Mephisto and Nightmare and different people are parts of that, was it ATV? The TVA? Maybe they're part of that, because he mentioned it and told him he would help him.
One thing that I'm probably going to guarantee is that Mephisto's probably not going to have anything to do with this.
I think so. Yeah.
They're probably going to string this along. But I like the Kang theory, guys. I mean, like you said, obviously, when you can think of time travel, and you obviously, if you're a Marvel person, you think of Kang. So I definitely like that. But at the same time, I also enjoy the fact of how we're taking people who are known as villains, and turning them into kind of like anti-heroes, kind of like heroes as well, right? Because Loki's, and he's always been a villain. He's he's one of the, historic villains of the Marvel universe. And now in this, they're going to kind of like make him a little bit into a hero. Right.
Well, that was one of the things I liked in yesterday's episode about, that if he stabbed you in the back, 50 times, but there will be one time that I won't, whatever, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I promise not to do it again.
Right. I mean, in the movies, he kind of redeemed himself when he, with his death, kind of like, he redeemed himself a couple of times with Thor, I guess, but he was, he's the guy of mischief. He's kind of like, he's always been kind of like a comedic villain, I guess, So he's not
much more so in the movies than the comics. In the comics, I don't think he's not as
Well, not in the beginning, but I guess as time went on, he kind of became a little bit as because everything they get from the movies, they obviously they come from storylines in the comics. So he's obviously changed in the comics as well. But I definitely like that route that they're taking, So, I mean, if you're going to make a whole show about him, you're going to obviously try to see how he ends up saving the universe kind of type deal,
Well, they're showing that one of the things is that, how much of an inferiority complex that he has, and what's the issue right now? Is he really trying to help Mobius, or is he trying to double cross Mobius, or is he just in it because he doesn't like the idea of another Loki being considered smarter than him? So that's one of the things that they keep talking about. That one of the theories that they're pushing here is what Loki's are the double, triple, quadruple crosses all the time. You don't know what he's doing, what his motives are.
Right. Well, I mean, his like dream is always to rule something, right? To be the ruler of something. So, I guess I'm
right there with him with that.
Right. Exactly. So his ulterior motive in this is kind of, it's going to be to find who, the three, I forgot what they call them. What do they call the
Time Lords?
Yeah, the Time Lords, and kind of overthrow them so that he can become, I guess, the the Time Lord, I guess, whatever. So, he's always going to have that motive of wherever he goes, that he wants to figure out a way to be the ruler, right? So
now that he knows that there's something more powerful than the Tesseract and the other Infinity Stones, he's like, is this is this the true power of the universe? And he's like, yep. So now he wants it. He wants it.
I'll tell you that part annoyed me. The part with the Infinity Stones in the first episode, or like we use them as paperweights, that part annoyed me. You just had showing the whole movie franchise how powerful these things were, and that they could destroy half the universe, and now that they're treated kind of like as a joke here in Loki. So that
what that made me think of? You know what that made me think of? Sorry to interrupt, Troy, but you guys remember I forgot, I think it was the last Men in Black that they had, when at the end of the movie they show like a whole universe and stuff, and then they pan out and then it turns out to be a marble, and like a little alien kid grabs the marble and he's playing with it like a marble and stuff, like a whole universe, right? So basically like the whole Marvel universe is kind of like they're it whatever happens there, it doesn't affect them, like they're over it, they're showing that the Infinity Stones, that's just the paperweight, and they were like, nobody can handle the Tesseract, and the guy's holding the Tesseract like nothing. So it's like that's
in the Justice League, the Justice League versus Marvel comic, Thanos is on Apocalypse. Apocalypse is fighting Galactus, and he has the Infinity Gauntlet, but it won't work. And Galactus tells him it won't work in this universe. So maybe they're outside the main universe, and it just won't work because it controls that universe. Because one of the stones is time, so it should be able to be as powerful, if not more powerful, than the variants. But it's not, and I think it's because they're bringing all these stones from the other universes in, and it just won't work.
Well,
how many episodes is this going to be?
6. I read
6, right? Yeah, 6. Okay.
That the TVA is outside the regular universe. That the rules don't apply there, or they're applying everywhere else.
That's why magic doesn't work.
Right.
Exactly.
But we also have so one of the things I was looking at, I don't know if you've been reading all the like Easter eggs there or looking at them. The Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where they were, the birthplace of Quasar.
Okay.
Was that one of the things that's one of the things that they were mentioning? We might see some little hint about him coming down the line.
I also like the reference that they made to the Rock Smart, whatever,
right?
Which is the Roxxon Corporation and stuff, So that's cool. The Roxxon's been mentioned in a lot of the movies, a lot of the Marvel shows.
So where do we think the main thing is that so he's jumping in, the episode 2 ends. He's going into this, portal.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going next?
Well, are we doing spoilers? We're doing.
Yeah,
spoilers.
we can talk about here. I mean,
the female Loki, or the female villain, whoever she might be,
right.
She is pretty much considering herself the Loki.
Main one, right?
And she set those explosives to destroy or to cause some type of a rift that will make a bunch of different timelines. So maybe she's trying to control some other timelines, or maybe she's trying to create other timelines to bring somebody back, or to fix some type of a wrong. Because if you can control time, you can go back and reset things. You can change things. She could do like a Kang and try to control different timelines. But she stepped through there. I think she's going to her main hidey hole, her main citadel, or whatever. Or she could be going to meet whoever is actually in charge. Because after that next episode, they've only got 3 more. Right. So they're going to eventually have to introduce the real big bad, or they're going to have to establish her as the big bad, because they got to start a fight sooner or later. I mean, it's Marvel. Somebody's going to have to hit somebody in the face, or blow something up or laser somebody. So that's got to be coming up.
If you look, going by the first 2 series, we went down a line of the villain going through almost the entire episode, and then we didn't see the big bad until close to the end of the series. So I'm assuming that she's not the big bad. I'm assuming that someone else has got to be coming in toward the end. Maybe Kang, but someone else has got to be coming in at the end, because so far they've not done it. They've not introduced that big bad early on in the series. They made you think it was one and then changed it up toward the end in both of them so far.
Has anyone mentioned Kang yet or no? Okay. You know, one of the things that I found interesting also that kind of like made me go, was when they were talking, when Loki and Lady Loki were talking, he called her Loki and she was like, don't call me that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of the thing that made me go kind of like,
Enchantress.
Right, exactly. And she was like, don't call me that. You know, like she was like upset, you know, like bothered by him calling it Loki, you know. So maybe it's not, you know. But I mean, like I said, with the creative licensing that Marvel's been taking, you know, who knows what it could be. But, you know, at the same time, like you said, she could be doing the dirty work for somebody else, for a main, you know, and who knows exactly. I mean, I guess we'll find out as it goes on. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But we'll see, man. I'm
By
excited.
the same token, you know, he kept trying to convince her to come help him work with him, and then she turns around saying, you know, this isn't about you. So again, if it's not about Loki, then it's got to be someone else over there.
She could be working. She could be working for the power broker.
So we'll see. I'm just curious to see where we're going next, where the portal is leading to that he followed. I mean, and you knew he was going in. You knew that he was going to double cross Mobius. You knew all that stuff, and which, you know, Mobius has got to be expecting that too, that he's going to be leaving him high and dry. So I'm just curious where we're going next.
And Marvel, being Marvel, knew that they were going to introduce this character, and she was going to have different abilities than Loki, because she's been kind of like, you know, Scarlet Witching it up, zapping people's minds, controlling them. But she's been able to do her own thing. She was still setting bombs and talking through the people while they were talking to him, you know, kind of wasting time with him so he wouldn't know that the bombs were being set. But they even though she has different abilities, Marvel, being good story writers, beforehand, when they had their little huddle, Morbius was like, all right, we got to be prepared, because we know all Lokis have similar, but not the exact powers.
Right.
Some of them are different. And that's when, you know, Loki jumped in and tried to explain what the two different types of this one particular power was.
Yes.
It was funny. And I'm thinking, when they did that, I was like, well, why are they saying that? She's going to be able to do something he can't. So when she was like zapping people's minds, she's basically possessing them, using them like a puppet. He hasn't done that yet. Now, he's a magician. He probably has a spell, but his natural abilities, he can't do that. So I'm thinking maybe she's somebody else. So I'm starting to go through my mental Rolodex. Who in, you know, this particular area of comic books, you know, the whole Asgard time thing, cosmic superheroes, could have the ability to possess other people. And I came up with a few names, but I'm not really sure.
In the comic books, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that Lady Loki is able to do that. She's able to possess people. Lady Loki is not Loki, you know, because remember, Lady is like another version of Loki. She's not really Loki. So in the Lady Loki is available to do that. That's why the whole, you know, that's why I'm leaning towards Lady Loki more than anything. But yeah, that was, you know, Loki obviously doesn't, you know, he can't, you know, he can shift change and stuff and, you know, like change himself, but he can't, you know, take over other people unless he has the actual stone. Which one was it? Which stone was it? The Mind Stone, unless he has the Mind Stone, right? Like when the Avengers, when he had the Mind Stone, when he had it on the scepter, he can touch people and he can take over, you know, over their minds. But he doesn't have the ability to do that. So late in the comics, I believe Lady Loki is kind of like has a little bit of the power of the Mind Stone, so she's able to do that.
And that would be interesting. I'm sorry, because if the big bad is somebody else, and they're using Lady Loki, and you think about what Morbius said, most of the people that we deal with, most of the variants are Lokis, then somebody has been throwing Lokis at the time variants. That's got to upset him. That's got to, you know, Loki's going to be like, wait a minute. So I'm the sucker?
Right.
You've been using me to do these things? and your power is so great that you're just using me as a pawn. I think that would upset him enough
Yes.
to help them more, So I'll prove
no one could make him look that right. He wants to be the worst one. But that scene was a cool scene going back and forth and changing people. What was that Denzel Washington movie? The one that everyone kept touching and then transferring the body? That's what reminded me of.
The angel, the fallen.
Right, that's what it reminded me of. Touching everyone touching. That was a good movie, and that's what this reminded me of last night. Everyone, passing on that power one to the next person. That it could be anybody in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So that's it for our first our wrap up of the first 2 episodes of Loki, and I really gotta be honest. I mean, I'm enjoying the series a lot. I can't wait to see where this one goes. This might I love the other 2, but this might be my favorite so far.
So far, episode wise, like WandaVision, I thought was like as a whole was fantastic. Yeah. But the first couple of episodes kind of like were a little bit slow to me. And I enjoyed, like I said, I enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but kind of like that. But this one from the get go, I've been like, it's been really, really smart, and it kind of like one of the things that I read about it is in the episode 2. I don't know if have you guys ever seen that show Mindhunter on HBO?
I haven't seen it.
LL Cool J.
Yeah, so right. So it basically is this guy who this FBI agent who has like these powers to, he can like not a powers, but he interviews it doesn't really, it doesn't make any, but it kind of reminded me of that show Mindhunter, which is it's a really smart show if you guys ever watched it.
Come to think of it, what I started saying has nothing to do with
it. It has nothing to do with this, but it kind of like had that, but it was really smart and like well written and it has me enthralled from the beginning. I'm like, from the get-go, I've been like, this is really smart the way they're doing this, and like I said, Hiddleston, I guess, kind of makes it as well because he's such a good actor. So, and I mean, what's his name? Mobius. What's his name? Owen Wilson. He's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah,
he's doing a really good job on this.
I didn't like WandaVision on the first 2 episodes, just like you. I didn't like the first 2 episodes, but I was forcing myself. It was like a meal that I didn't want to eat, but I knew I didn't want to throw it away, so I just kept eating. So I watched the first 2 episodes, and I was like, but after the second episode, after the third one started, I was like, oh. Okay, all right, I see where you're going. And it built from there. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier, the whole episode, the whole thing was great. The thing with Val and potentially bringing the Thunderbolts or whichever team she's bringing in, all of that, U.S. agent going nuts. Everything was great. But the thing that stuck out to me was Conrad Mack, the smiling tiger. When the Falcon pretended to be the guy, and he's like, I look like a pimp. And he's like, only in America, you think because you're good looking, you think he was a pimp. And he was dressed up like the guy, and he's like, you're the smiling tiger. That character is a part of a group called the Folding Hand in the comic books, and they were the enemies of the New Warriors. So I'm thinking, wow, they just opened up a whole, just by mentioning this dude's name, they got the Folding Circle. They got the New Warriors, which I love. Leader of the New Warriors was a guy called Night Thrasher, which was another Batman kind of a ripoff kind of a guy. And, I like that team a lot, and I expected to see more of them. But I'm hoping that because I got the whole run, I got the whole thing, and I love the book or the books, and I'm hoping that they touch on that again because. It was like liking marshmallows, and your mom's like, we're going to have ice cream. You're like, but it'll have marshmallows. And you're like, go on. That's for me. When they did that, I was like, okay, I'm listening. You've got my interest. And I kept waiting for more of that group, but they didn't give me anything. But I kept watching. That's my thing.
I will say I loved WandaVision right from the beginning just because it was so different. It was just... you hadn't seen that way from something like that from a superhero show before. So
Right.
it's just so bizarre that I wondered what was going on. There was a big mystery there to me, what was going on. And I tried to like think back to all the comics that I read and see, what this had to do with it. So I did like it. But anyway, like I said, all right. Anyway, to recap, we're enjoying Loki, we're enjoying Hiddleston, and we think this has nothing to do with Kang. Right?
Or Mephisto.
Oh, Mephisto, yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you all for tuning in. And remember, hit the subscribe button and
Subscribe.
subscribe. And until next time, this has been Comics and Pop. Thank you.